Bashu Ghosh Prabhu, they were having a discussion, and this devotee was interviewing him and asking him questions. Apparently, there's two sides to the coin, like we know. The American devotees, meaning, Garuda and these people in Alachua, they're pushing for female Diksha gurus. And we got the resistance crowd from India, meaning the Indians and Bashu Ghosh and the mafia from India. They're resisting. So they're like, there's no Shastric evidence.
They want male Diksha gurus.
They only want male, Diksha gurus. And
how about no Diksha gurus?
That's what I wanted to talk about, but they never.
Yeah, that would definitely solve that particular problem.
Yeah, no Diksha gurus.
And then you have to figure out if there's no Diksha gurus and the Prabhupada's the Diksha guru, and you have to figure out if he male or female.
Rahul, which group is it? Which religious group was it? I mean, which?
India versus
mafia?
America.
Which Indian mafia was it?
I'll show you. Hold on. So
the whole thing is that they're trying to say what sort of Hindu religion is it that they want, right?
What did you say, Narayana Prabhu?
Oh, they're trying to determine what sort of Hindu religion is it that they're looking for.
Exactly. So
because there's nothing in spite of Gregory with his very strong Kirtananda becomes Diksha Guru when he becomes perfected or whatever. That argument is a profoundly weak one, and that's what I want to talk about when we get into it. It doesn't have to be immediately, but at some point I'd like to get into it. And Rupa Manjari was thinking I was being aggressive, political, and pushy or bullying and all that good stuff.
Okay, so here's the video that Mohit Prabhu was asking about. This video right here.
This Ras Prabhu is very popular. This guy is very popular, right? Late night show with.
Not late night show, late morning program with Nam Ras Prabhu. Yeah.
Nam Ras broadcast. Yeah. This guy is very popular on YouTube. Yeah.
So here's Garuda Prabhu and here's Bashu Ghosh. Both of them are having a discussion and why female Diksha gurus is a plus and minus. So they're all discussing. That's a very interesting discussion.
But nobody raised the question of like who's going to bell the count. I mean, how did they determine that there should be a Diksha guru? Do they have any evidence that Prabhupada wanted Diksha gurus?
They all have their own fabricated evidences. Very good.
It doesn't have to be videotaped. It should be a clear written instruction. Prabhupada made a clear written instruction for the direction of management. Therefore, there should be a clear written direction of exactly how he wanted successor gurus, if indeed he wanted them. But they have not yet established that he wanted them. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, that's the point. I tried to make the point where let's go and read the next of instruction, verse 5, about what is the qualification, or what is needed to be a Diksha guru, but they did not want to discuss that part. They were just discussing.
They said they declared that they didn't want to discuss it.
I posted the comment there, but no one responded to the comment. So the host was actually looking at the comments, but he never pointed out, hey, Prabhupada talks about this issue of who can be a guru, Diksha guru.
And apparently, from what I've been reading recently, Prabhupada, with tears in his eyes, says we should be followers of Rudragoswami.
Yes.
Which makes sense because in the spiritual world, Rudragoswami is Rupa Manjari, no pun intended in this case. And as Rupa Manjari, everyone is obliged to Rupa Manjari to sort out their rasas with Krishna. So if anybody knows the rules, it would be Rupa Manjari in the spiritual sky. And the purpose of Rupa Goswami appearing was not just to keep company with Lord Chaitanya, but to establish the standard for that exact thing, Guru. So if they want to bypass that or ignore it or interpret it or reinterpret it, they're not speaking from, my argument is speak from Krishna Loka. In other words, understand that Prabhupada, everything Prabhupada did was from Krishna Loka. So what does Krishna want? You have to hear what Prabhupada says, not what people have decided politically to arrange for themselves after Prabhupada was conveniently no longer present.
Yeah, both sides are arguing. Basu Ghosh is reading Prabhupada's quotes and purports where Prabhupada is saying that, here, it's females are not to be diksha gurus, and Garuda was saying, oh, wait a minute. Prabhupada said any qualified person can be a diksha guru. So they never came to a
qualified person.
Hmm?
So Vasu Ghosh is, so Garuda is standing forth claiming that women are automatically qualified.
Yes.
Well, you can't, that's not how you determine who's qualified. What's qualified? 4 regulative principles? Well, Malati certainly didn't exemplify 4 regulative principles. She has AIDS that she got from shooting lead when she blew. After she did all the record with George Harrison and everything like that, she went into a lesbian commune in New York and became a speed freak and got AIDS from that relationship. So how does that make her qualified?
Yeah. Okay, we have another. Suryan's Prabhu is coming online, so he hasn't joined us for a while. So
who's coming on?
Suryan's Singhal.
Huh?
Suryan's Prabhu, what's going on? Are you coming on? And you want to discuss something? Let's get to it. Rupa Manjari Prabhu, go ahead. Now you take the floor if you want to talk about what you wanted to say.
Well, as Narayana brought up, I was sort of taking issue with the way in which Narayana spoke to Gregory, because he, in my opinion, was aggressive and like interrupting, and like I just felt that he could have conducted himself in a more civil manner.
Jai. Okay. So
Jai.
I agree. It's a commonly well-known fact that I can always and should always act in a much more civil manner. There's no doubt of it. I'm not joking. I have Mars and Saturn in the second house of speech, and all that implies.
okay, so
we need to beat him with a stick 50 times.
No. We cannot beat anyone with a stick. 52. How about that, Mahaprabhu?
Just kidding.
I know.
Next thing you're going to say that when you're making breakfast, you should beat an egg 50 times with a stick.
Okay. All right.
So what I would like to say, in just as a indicator of where I was coming from, he was trying to make an argument as though he were a politician, or he were a lawyer in the court, and he did not want anything added or subtracted to his argument. at all. Now, in an Istagosthi, you should make a point and then listen to a response to that point, not just simply try to bulldoze a viewpoint across. Now, I may have been perceived as trying to bulldoze, but what I was actually doing, if I am not to be too much misperceived, is that I was not really bulldozing. What I was doing is he was raising a point and I tried to insert two small questions that related directly to his point. He didn't want any questions. He wanted to win an argument. And that wasn't what I was considering to be the right thing to do. And the other thing, which I think is, well, he's not initiated and everything, so what can we expect? But considering that I had direct association with Prabhupada during the exact time that Kirtanananda is being named by Gregory, is saying that Prabhupada made him into a Shiksha Guru, when I tried to point out also that if it's not the best example, because he had a year before that he had not yet turned over the Bhagavad Gita that he and Hayagriva stole and tried to publish under their own name.
Right.
That's some Shiksha Guru, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Not some.
And yeah, and the other factor is that he was an actively practicing homosexual at that time, meaning I think it was June 1968. I didn't go there until I didn't go there to New Vrindavan until April of 1969. And quite frankly, it was a pretty weird, scary place, you know. It was a homosexual hang-up.
But the thing is that even though we know that was the case with Kirtanananda being perverted, Prabhupada nonetheless wrote what he wrote. And so anybody that wants to have their viewpoint validated can, like Greg was doing, can point to that quote and say, see, Prabhupada said it's okay.
Yeah. And remember, Greg was pursuing the idea that you act as a Shiksha Guru, and then when you get it down completely, then you become the Diksha Guru. And I had also tried to interject a question is, how does a person without a rasa with Krishna, which is your idea of a Shiksha Guru, how does he become a Diksha Guru, which means a person that is in his rasa with Krishna and is a resident of Krishna Loka? How do you make that happen? But the other point I'd like to say is, one of the things I would fault in the Indian devotees that come on is that they recognize my age, they recognize my relationship with Prabhupada, they recognize my rather extreme seniority in the Krishna consciousness movement, so they tend to defer to me more than I want to be deferred to. But at the same time, Gregory, I think, wanted to prove me a wrong person who was misleading people, and he didn't want me to present reasonable arguments. Now, Rupa, I don't want to get further, but I just want to respond to your idea that yes, Prabhupada did say Shiksha Guru. And if you were there at the time, and I wasn't yet initiated, but shortly after that, when I'd written a letter about Brahmananda, and Gargamuni, which sort of freaked me out, because they were doing things that I had been taught very strictly not to do in San Francisco and Los Angeles, you know. I mean, we were very much more strict. These are the earlier guys, and they started out barely following the regulated principles at all. And in fact, in San Francisco, I think in 1967, they actually had a vote whether or not we're going to follow the related principles. And one of the main Mataji's used to regularly have sex in the basement of the temple with guys. So, I mean, it's not, it wasn't really as tightly run as one might expect. However, now to get back to the point, when Prabhupada said I should follow Brahmananda because it's in charge, he said, just like as you are initiated by me and follow me, you should also follow Brahmananda. He didn't use the word Shiksha Guru, but at the same time, that's essentially what he was saying. And if he said that about Kirtanananda, who he gave sannyas to shortly before he said that he was a Shiksha Guru, should act as a Shiksha Guru, because Kirtananda had come back from India telling all the devotees to cut off their sikas, or they didn't call them sikas, then we call them flags, cut off their flags and not wear dhotis. And Prabhupada wrote a scathing letter saying, avoid Kirtananda at all costs. And this is like less than a year before that word Shiksha Guru. And Prabhupada used the word Shiksha Guru at that time and at that place in order to get people to accept the temple president as his representative. That was it. It had nothing to do with the actual status of an actual Shiksha Guru. And that is hard to explain because if you see something in writing, the tendency is to say, wait, I saw it in writing. There it is. Like a majority sees in writing, right? And so for me to make a case to Gregory, as long as he's taking this very Catholic Church idea that the priest is the representative of Jesus, and if you disagree, you are a heathen or you should be burned at the stake or something like that. That is a point of view which it was a very temporary point of view that was adopted at that time, you see. And I think if anybody in their right mind looking at the actual term of Shiksha Guru would see that Prabhupada absolutely did not mean that Shiksha Guru to be the same as years later, 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, when he was writing the Srima Bhagavatam, right?
Yes. Yeah.
When he was writing the Srima Bhagavatam, then he made it very clear in a very more mature way. Remember, in 1968, June of 68, New Vrindavan had just been created, and Kirtanananda and Hayagriva, I think Hayagriva, because he was more into writing, wrote a letter to Prabhupada with an acronym as the title. You know, it was like initials on the title of on the letterhead. Okay, and you know what the letters were?
So what?
Friends of Lord Krishna. Do you get that?
Friends of,
well, let's see. No, however, it was FUCKYOU. They wrote to Prabhupada when they first got New Vrindavan, were planning to make it their own society, their own cult, surrounding the book that Kirtanananda and Hayagriva had stolen, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which wasn't released until the fall. After Prabhupada went there in April and stayed for a month, he never asked for Hayagriva to return the book. And we studied from it every day, from Hayagriva's, you know, he had the typed out transcripts with his editing. So we read his edited version in class every day, even though Prabhupada was not allowed to touch it.
Yeah.
So that's quite a shiksha guru, I would say. No. And what do you do? What do you do? FUCKYOU is the letterhead of his shiksha guru.
Yeah.
So
how would we understand that part, Rupa Manjari? Like this nature of Kirtanananda and Prabhupada writing that and taking the letter as it is, and then knowing who Kirtanananda was, that he was, not a Shiksha Guru. I mean, Prabhupada wrote that. How can we understand that? Knowing the background of Kirtanananda and knowing what he has done.
Narayan is suggesting that his usage of the word Shiksha Guru changed.
Okay.
yeah, his use of the word, not the meaning, of course, but what he wanted was essentially, he wanted the temple presidents to be sort of like what the gurus claim to be today, representatives of the Acharya. And he referred to them as Shiksha Guru, which was a term that none of us knew anyhow, because we didn't have any books. The first book Prabhupada really published, book, was the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and that wasn't published till the end of 1969. And it was not Hayagriva's editing either that they published, but Ray Rama's editing. And Ray Prabhupada later on said something that never got caught up by the group of devotees, was that we should never read that early blue Bhagavad Gita with the Vishnu on the cover. Because he said Ray Rama included Mayavada conclusions in that first book. So you can see it was a dicey situation for me, looking at Srila Prabhupada's activity. I would say, how the heck did he manage to take that situation and turn it into such an amazing success? And now we could say, oh, it's not a success because look at these bogus gurus. That's the least of our problems right now. Bogus gurus can be easily replaced with elected GBC. Because once you get rid of the GBC, you no longer have any basis for the gurus. And the GBC is easy to get rid of if you get the masses of people voting on your side and agreeing with you, which shouldn't be too hard now. I think now means within the next 6 months or a year, we're at a pivotal position. And in this pivotal position, people are saying there's got to be an answer. There's got to be more than we're told. I think that's a way of putting it. There's got to be more to this than we're being told. We're obeying, we're doing everything. We have lovely temple programs. We have gurus that are so full of joy and whatnot. But there's something missing. Everyone knows it. Everyone can feel it, So now that's our chance to say, yes, there is something missing. That is the GBC cannot elect gurus or nominate gurus because they themselves must be elected by the temple presidents. And if they're not, then how can they elect gurus? And even if they are, how could they elect gurus? How could a guy elected a temple president that's a GBC for 3 years then take responsibility for creating gurus once a year in Mayapur, which was not the way Prabhupada designed the situation. Does it make sense? Anyhow, I went on much longer than I intended. Rupa Manjari, do you see the point? Okay, let me just finish with my way of handling it. I want to say clearly, I do not want to get people, I don't want to present a point of view or a philosophy and then have people agree with it, and then it's me and them against anybody that doesn't agree. That's not my idea. My idea is quite different. I am pure spirit soul. I am speaking what I feel is true based on my realization of what I've studied, my association with Prabhupada, my awareness of the history of ISKCON, and speaking what I believe to be true. And if Gregory has a different view, that's fine. I'm not trying to get him to join in a party. I'm not trying to form a party against Gregory. I want Gregory to not form a party, which he looked like he was trying to do, against me or anybody else. And the last point I would make, and this really is the last point I'm going to make. The last point I would make is that I'm a senior devotee. I was there at the time. That was just a few months before I was initiated. I knew the climate of the temple. Everybody talked about everything. There were no secrets. So I would think that Gregory would want to say, you don't think that when Prabhupada said Shiksha Guru, that he actually meant Shiksha Guru in the way people are now considering Shiksha Guru to be. And I would have said yes. And I would have presented the evidence, such as I have done right now. And then Gregory would present his view based on Guru Shastra Sadhu. And if he brought up Kirtanananda, I would have very carefully explained all of the things I just explained just now about Kirtanananda's astonishing history.
Yeah.
And is that what he has in mind, that Kirtananda starts at that point and then becomes a Shiksha Guru?
Prabhu, I was going to say this on that day.
Diksha Guru, I mean, yeah, no, he's right there. He's described as a Shiksha Guru. Does he keep going to become a Diksha Guru?
Narayan, somebody wants to say something.
Of course, I'm finished anyhow. I'm sorry for being so wordy. But I'm very meticulous. I like to be very.
Ramachandra Prabhu, I was going to say this on the same day, that you should take out the history of Kirtananda Prabhu and then everything will come out. But the discussion went on the Diksha Guru and everything, right? We should be understanding that which Guru is which Guru is he following and which followings is he following, right? So that's the main crux of main root of cause what Gregory is saying, right?
What are you saying? We should present the history of Kirtanananda by Srila Prabhupada?
No, exactly what Prabhu said, right away, that what's the history and how Kirtananda has been doing things, right, Prabhu?
Okay, yes.
Exactly what, then his mind would have been changed and then this discussion wouldn't have gone so bad, yeah.
Gregory is taking the letter as it is, and then, being like, here, look, Prabhupada has said this. And Prabhupada did say it in a letter and write it to a letter. So, and then Kirtanananda does have a really, rough history of what he has done and what he's doing.
Exactly.
So with all that information and what Prabhupada had written about it, Narayan Prabhu was saying this. So is that the type of Shiksha Guru you want?
Exactly. Real examples should be shown from taking from Ved side, Vedic scriptures. We can show it to him, right?
Yeah, we discussed that part where Rupa Manjari, Rudragoswami was, Shiksha Guru to many of the devotees, and so was Sarup Damodar. So these were eternally liberated souls coming from Krishna Loka down to preach Krishna consciousness. So these types of Shiksha Gurus are, ideal, not this Kirtananda type Shiksha Gurus or that.
Aren't we studying today some some lecture or something? Can't we read today anything?
No, just wanted to discuss this point. Rupa Manjari Prabhu, do you have anything else to add to the conversation, or
Let's start reading, please. Yeah.
Just that if he comes back, Gregory, Narayana, that you not be so aggressive with him, just like let him present what he wants to present, and then when he's done presenting it, then you can speak, your response in
Okay.
a civil
Mataji,
manner.
yeah, Mataji, to be frank, I guess Prabhu was not that much angry, but the guy, he was not listening, right? He didn't wanted to listen. He just wanted to say everything, right? He was not also humble to listen people, right? As like a 5-year-old kid does, right? Papa, my thing, my thing, my thing. So it was happening at that moment. So I can totally understand that Prabhu got irritated and frustrated, and he should have not. But he was also not that much humble to listen, because you need to listen to senior devotees specifically.
That's
So,
true. That's true.
yeah. So it's a problem both sides, right? Not one side. Both sides have that problem, right? So that can be fixed anytime, right?
Okay.
Right.
Anything else for discussion?
Hare Krishna. Good
Yeah,
points.
Mahaprabhu, go ahead.
Very, very good points. We have to be respectful of one another.
Go ahead.
We need to see the
Yeah,
jiva,
yeah.
the Gita in each and every one of us. I agree. But we're on the right path.
With Mahaprabhu's guidance, we're always going to be on the right track.
Thank you, Ramachandra Das.
Let's start reading, bro, today.
Okay.
It's the
All right.
right time, yeah.
So you let's go to Bhagavatam, or what's the
Krishna book, if possible. Otherwise, it's up to you, bro.
Krishna book? Okay, let me see. Let me try to find Krishna book. 1 second then. Okay.
May I ask something?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah,
Prabhu. Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
Cool.
Go ahead, Haribu.
Yeah, so Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. In one of the previous iṣṭa-goṣṭhīs, I was discussing this thing about book changes with Narayana Prabhu. So there happened to be an audio problem at that time. So I wanted to confirm that, like initially, the Prabhupada's books were used as standard reading material in many universities across the world. So, is it that after book changes, many universities stopped using Prabhupada's books as standard teaching material? So, Narayana Prabhu, can you understand my question?
Narayan Prabhu?
He has to unmute himself. Okay, so Narayan Prabhu did answer that question in one of the videos. He said when they start editing Srila Prabhupada's books, the college university stopped reading.
Carrying them?
Yeah, because everyone had a different edition. So he did say that. So
Okay.
That's terrible.
yeah, because many people, Narayan Prabhu also gave an example where someone, I think, passed away or something, and they were reading the Gita, and each person was reading a different version, so none of them could follow along what the next person was saying. So if you have an edited version of the Gita, who knows, what version and what revision and what you have. So in this way, there's multiple editions of the Bhagavad Gita written by the BBTI and edited by the BBTI guys. And that is one of the biggest problems. That's why the college and universities rejected that.
Yeah, can you imagine the incredible blow to Prabhupada's presence on earth to have his books made in such a way, after going through all the extremes with Pradumna in Pradumna? in
Yes, Padumna,
in
translating.
Harvard. He was in Harvard, right? That to use all the spellings and everything according to the highest scholarship of Harvard, and to have them change the wording of the verses and the texts as though the author's arm came out of the grave holding a pen and made those changes. It's just basically unthinkable. But they're mostly not very educated themselves, particularly Jayadvaita. I don't think he even graduated from high school. For me, it's easy to say because I have a degree in English literature, and I was more read than my professors were by the time I got to college, because I had no television or radio growing up, so nothing but books on a 10-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. So you can imagine I read everything, and I was a very early reader. I could read quite well at the age of 5. So for me, it's not hard to understand why it's so important. If you're going to change a book, you have to do it with a footnote and an appendix, or an appendix, you see. You can't just do it. You have to qualify your change. And if there's a lot of errors in the original that must be changed, like mistranslations, well, then you've got quite a job ahead of you to make footnotes and
Asterisk.
yeah.
So Prabhu, like at the present moment, are universities using BBT books as a standard material for religious studies or these kind of subjects?
Haribol, which university is this?
No,
I
I'm
think to a large degree they have not.
Are they
because
using the Gita at all?
Yeah, that's
Well,
like super.
I don't think they're using Prabhupada's Gita because it's too chopped up. I made that point in the 1990s to a BBT meeting. I went to the BBT meeting, which of course they were not that happy about. And I said, as a person with a degree in English literature, I will tell you that if you have a thing where you buy a new Gita to go to class and you pay $20 for it or whatever it costs at the bookstore, and then you buy a used one in the used bookstore from a few years ago, and it's different, and then you find out that 4 or 5 of them are different, what college professor in his right mind is going to use that book? And why should he? Why should a college professor use a book that you can't get 2 versions of and without any notation that they were edited? Finally, way down the line, they put a small type at the very back of the end of the book saying, edited by Jayadvaita. But they don't say what the edits are. I mean, he had no college education, he had no high school education. He didn't have a high school degree.
so we can say that these book changes, instead of preaching properly, they have forced the college professors to accept Mayavadi editions of Bhagavad Gita instead of Prabhupada's editions in their religious study classes, right?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. That's a fact.
So, like in those times, like Srila Prabhupada and along with disciples like you, they did a very hard work to go from university to university, establish the books of Srila Prabhupada, and they eventually made standard material for education. But
And
these books,
go ahead.
yeah, but these book editings, they resulted in like propagating of more of Mayavadi theory inside those universities instead of Prabhupada's Gita.
Yeah, because
So
they
you're talking about
couldn't
some
use
Indian
Prabhupada's
university?
Gitas. Yeah, they don't care. They just wanted to sell books. They didn't care about how they were being read or used. But one thing also that creates a disturbing climate is that Prabhupada and the original editing and Prabhupada and Hayagriva and all these people got noted intellectuals to say that these were the most authorized books. But when they edited them, they didn't take out those recommendations, so that it makes the people who praise the books look like idiots. And they're not idiots. They're very highly accomplished professors. So they were double-crossed by the book changes.
So Vinayak Prabhu, it's an Indian university who's doing it? In your university specifically?
No, in those
Who-
times, like
Who is
Okay,
changing the book? Who changes the books? We know is Garuda and Jayatirtha, Jayadvaita, and a team. They made a holy mission to undo Hayagriva because I think Jayadvaita being
Garuda is for
Jayadvaita-
the original books. Garuda is for the original books. Garuda Prabhu.
No, wait a second. Then who is it that's been helping Jayadvaita?
Dravida.
Dravida, not Garuda. The Dravida. Yeah, sorry. The Dravida gorilla. Yes, I'm sorry. I made the mistake. So, yeah, Dravida was all for changing the books. When I came, I said they're taking out passages about women. They're changing passages about women, changing passages about gay people, changing passages about different races of people. He said, yes, and it's high time. That's what should have been done. So they decided to take the books and make them into a material asset without any regard to the actual duration of the goal. Now we're League of 10K, meaning we're here for the duration of the golden age of Kali. And I pray our fellow Zoom members will commit ourselves to being here as long as it takes for every jiva to hear the holy name nicely, as though it were being chanted by Srila Prabhupada, meaning by Lord Chaitanya. So that way we will become the, if you want to know who's the next Acharya, you're the next Acharya. What does the Acharya do? He teaches by example. And what is the example? You go here, there, and everywhere and chant the holy name of Krishna. Do you have to have a big Vyasasan and be worshipped and give diksha? No. Acharya means you're Bicharya of the worms in the soil and the grass and the trees and the animals and the people, if they're even a bit interested. That is the meaning of Acharya now, after Prabhupada. Everyone is Acharya. The holy name is its own Acharya, in other words. You don't need, I mean, you get a guru, this guru or that guru, male guru, female guru. You get a guru to give you the realization of this particular branch of theology. The particular branch of theology ends up being the Hare Krishna mantra. Lord Chaitanya broke open the storehouse of love of God and flooded the land. Well, that means that once the storehouse was broken open, everything that a guru would teach was given away for free in a flood coming by Lord Chaitanya. So you don't need anyone. We only needed to get Prabhupada to come to America and then create a global movement, which he succeeded in doing admirably. For a lot of people to hear the holy name, I would say that probably billions of people know the Hare Krishna mantra because of Srila Prabhupada.
Exactly.
So he's like practically single-handedly did that. And what stops us? Nothing. We can do it too. And go on and on and on. We can go back to Godhead if that's really what floats our boat, assuming that's what Krishna wants us to do. Or we can stay here, as Prabhupada would say, who am I to associate with Krishna? Let him play with gopis and let me stay here and serve him. That was my credo from 1968, and it's gotten deeper ever since. Let me stay here and serve him. Why? Because I cannot stand that people are suffering in this material world. I cannot stand that they're going to take repeated animal and vegetable and insect births. I cannot stand to see that. There's only one thing I could do, and that's what we're doing right here. The League for 10,000 years means we pledge that no jiva will go without having heard the holy name of Krishna at least once, which means he will go back to Godhead.
Right. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, Prabhu, it was very nice explanations of the philosophy. And
Right.
sometimes I also think one more thing that
Right.
just like saying that you grew up without television and you read so many books. So in those ages, in previous ages before smartphone and televisions, people were very much accustomed of reading many books. And
Yes.
practically due to these book changes, almost for the last 30 years, a lot of jivas were deprived of their opportunity to read Prabhupada's books and understand the actual Vaishnava philosophy in their universities. And now what we see in future, what is going to happen is like most of the people are not like because of Kali Yuga, the intelligence and mental power of people are decreasing. Even if they are given the original editions of Prabhupada's books, they cannot read or they cannot even develop any interest of reading them. So, what is going to be the factor for preaching for like next 100 years or after that? Because people will not be intelligent enough to give so much endeavor in reading the books.
Well, that's now.
It's
That's maybe
13.
in the next 20 years, the next 50 years, maybe the next 100 years, but it's not the next 9,450 years. The books will be read. But if I could only say that reading, the Prabhupada said, reading his books, I mean, if you read the Upanishad, you find out there's God. You read the Bhagavad Gita, you find out who God is, speaking himself first to his best associate and friend. You want to know what is Krishna's life like when he's not on the battlefield? And, you know, like Bhagavad Gita is just on the battlefield. What is it like not on the battlefield? You read the Srima Bhagavatam, going from beginning to end to 10th canto. And then then you say, now I know everything about Krishna, but I don't know one thing. How can I worship Krishna? And then you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. All those books are there. I agree. Whatever changes, first of all, they haven't, and nor can they, I don't think, destroy all the original copies of all the original books. So they can be reprinted in their original form, and I'm hoping that in our lifetime, they will be. However, the only purpose to answer your question, shooting to the heart of the target, the bullseye, the target, is that you don't need to read Prabhupada's books to go back to Godhead. Just chant Hare Krishna, you'll go back to Godhead.
Joy.
You know, I guess I can quickly try to put that story of Lord Chaitanya was in a room full of Brahmins, and they were snickering and looking over at a Brahmin sitting on the ground with the Bhagavad Gita open with a picture of Krishna and Arjuna, the picture in the Gita, and he's weeping. And Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya said to them, why is he weeping? He said, oh, he feels so left out. He's born in the Gotra of a Brahmin, but he was not ever taught to read and write. So he's suffering and he's lamenting that he will never have access to the purport of Bhagavad Gita because he can't read. So he's weeping that he's being excluded even though he's a Brahmin. Whereas we can read and we're getting full advantage. So Lord Chaitanya walked over to this Brahmin and said, my dear Brahmin, I noticed that you're looking at this picture of Krishna and Arjuna in the front of the book of Bhagavad Gita. I would like to know, why are you crying? Not knowing what he's going to say. And the Brahmin looked up with tears in his eyes and said, I am crying because here I am seeing that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is so magnificent, so kind, that instead of wearing jewelry and sitting on a throne or dancing with gopis, instead of all of these pastimes that he does, he's here on the battle of Kurukshetra. And what does this cowherd boy, what does this lover of gopis What is this business on a battlefield? He is so kind to his devotee, Arjuna, that he has taken on the task to be his humble charioteer. And that is why I'm crying, because that is the greatness of Krishna, that he is so, his causeless mercy is so incredibly great. So Lord Chaitanya, hearing him say that, went over to the other Brahmins and said, well, you heard what he said. And I would like to mention to you, he has gotten the exact purport of the Bhagavad Gita, and you have all missed it with your attempt to try to make advancement and use the Gita to make advancement, etc. So I'd like to say the whole purpose of Prabhupada's books is bhakti, love of God. And you can get love of God by seeing a picture of Mother Yasoda and Krishna. Or you can read all about Krishna stealing butter and giving it to monkeys. You can do all of these things. But the main thing is chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. That's what Lord Chaitanya proved. And remember, he gave up his incredible background as a scholar. Even at the age of 16, he could defeat everybody. And he gave it up. And his students were horrified. They said, Master, why have you given it up? He says, my guru, I took to chanting initiation. He gave me the Hare Krishna mantra. And I said, well, what about my philosophy? He said, you're too stupid to understand the philosophy. Just leave it alone. Just chant Hare Krishna. So because my guru told me to do that, that's what I'm doing. I have no choice. You see? So that's the mood of ISKCON. But Prabhupada couldn't very well state that openly because everybody was sitting there watching him being guru, and practically everybody was thinking, I wonder if I'll be selected to be a guru after Prabhupada. And won't that be wonderful if people start worshiping me? So what's Prabhupada going to do? Tell no? He just let them run with it. And here they ran. They ran until this very moment, right now, 2021. October 2021. October 10th, I think, 2021. And what has it gotten them? It's gotten them baffled. They don't know what to do next. But we do. The League for 10K knows what to do next. And that's why we say League for 10K. Let them do what they're doing in the ISKCON temples. We can belong to the ISKCON temple or not belong to the ISKCON temple. We can have a guru there or no guru there. But when we come to this meeting here, the League for 10K page of the Zoom call, when we're here on this Zoom call, we have transcended all of the activity going on in the ISKCON temples because Istagosthi is not Kanista Adhikari. It is the beginning of, and the purport is the jiva, is Satchidananda Vigraha, that I am pure spirit soul, I'm speaking as pure spirit soul, I'm hearing you as pure spirit soul without any designation according to body or material characteristics or membership or race or creed, nothing. Just the truth of realization. And if I know something, I can share it. If I don't know something and you do, you can share it. And I will be enlightened from what you tell me, because you may be 10 years in the movement or 5 years or 2 years in the movement. I may be so gazillions of years in the movement. But if you're telling me something I don't understand, then I welcome it in this Istagosthi. And that we need to understand concerning Gregory too. I'm not trying to create a party against his view. I'm trying to talk about the view coming from Prabhupada, but he wanted to create a party. And he wanted people on his side. He wanted to get a vote. He wanted to get a religion out of it or something. I don't know what. But anyhow, let's see how he progresses. I have no ill will towards him at all. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it answered very nicely, Prabhu. So maybe like as per your answer, I may infer something that in future it might be possible for some leaders who are able to understand the philosophy as it is given by Prabhupada, and they will preach to others, and depending upon their level, they will understand about Harinam or Hare Krishna mantra, and they will make progress simply by kirtana.
Yes. So whoever is a temple leader, whoever is a shiksha, not shiksha, but whoever is a initiator of people, not a guru, but a person that performs the ceremony like a wedding ceremony or an initiation ceremony to break you part of ISKCON. And this is something that one of our associates didn't like hearing, but that we need to understand that Prabhupada said that ISKCON is my body. He made that quite clear. ISKCON is my body. Why? He's a pure devotee from Krishna Loka. Anything that he touches becomes spiritualized. Therefore, for you to preach, all you have to do, you can take your initiation yourself, not Gayatri, but you can take your first initiation by yourself if you want. Just put up a picture of Prabhupada and say, please accept me. You can do that. But if you have a fire sacrifice, many of your sinful reactions will be burned up, which is nice. That's the purpose of initiation, diksha. And for the Brahman initiation, that is initiates you into the realm where you can worship the deity, cook the prasadam, and do everything, as a temple priest. So that's and then later on you can take sannyas. That's another initiation of renunciation. And then when you die, you take shraddha. You die, and they hold the same prayers basically when you die, when you get initiated, when you become sannyasi, when you take second initiation, when you get married. Basically, all the prayers or the Anaprasana ceremony, which is when a child reaches 4 months old and it takes her first grains and chooses between coins and books. That's all the same process. And it doesn't require a diksha guru to do it. All it requires is that it be done by ISKCON, which is Srila Prabhupada's swarup. When Prabhupada said ISKCON is my body, he meant ISKCON, when practiced properly, according to his instructions, obviously, is my swarup. My spiritual body is ISKCON. Treat it like a material thing. It's not, but you'll miss out on the best part. Treat it as what it is, spiritual. You'll be able to make unlimited ecstatic advancement and dance in ecstasy with tears streaming from your eyes when you chanted kirtan. That's the fact. Hare Krishna. Okay, go ahead.
One more thing I wanted to discuss, Prabhu. So,
And anyone can answer, not just me.
Yes.
But if you want me to answer, I will.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pranam. So one thing is that regarding in one of the iṣṭa-goṣṭhīs we were discussing this. So regarding excommunications of devotees that usually senior leaderships are doing right now and have been doing since many years. So these excommunications or bannings, like these things were also prominent during Prabhupada's times, that devotees were excommunicated or banned from ISKCON properties and events and these kind of things.
They were? I never encountered Prabhupada excommunicating anyone. Basically, if a person wanted to be excommunicated, they just left the temple, grew their hair out, started smoking pot or something like that. But nobody ever said, very few people, if any, said, I reject. And Prabhupada, as far as I know, never rejected a single person. Because why should he? Once a devotee is initiated, it doesn't end with that devotee in this lifetime. the devotee goes on for, maybe he goes on for 10 lifetimes, then he becomes a devotee again, he's still under Prabhupada's protection. Prabhupada made that very clear. So whether a devotee leaves the movement or whether he rejects the movement, doesn't matter. He's still taken diksha from Prabhupada. Prabhupada has accepted him as he is. And when he breaks all the regulative principles, he can do that. But when he stops breaking them and comes back, Prabhupada would never reject, never excommunicate. Which raises an interesting question. Where did you hear that Prabhupada excommunicated anyone?
No, the excommunication issue is with the current leadership that is doing that. So my question was whether it was prominent in those times also regarding excommunications or banning people from ISKCON, or it is just a new thing that is started after departure of Prabhupada.
Oh yeah, it was created by the GBC. Nobody was ever rejected by Prabhupada's order. No temple president rejected anybody. Basically, in the earlier days of the movement, we saw a devotee who left the temple, we would beg them to come back again. I mean, I would like to understand what is the basis of excommunication now or any other time.
Yeah, because it is kind of very disturbing thing in this movement. Like every year we see that 4 or 5 devotees face this kind of treatment, and it is
Oh,
very
what
kind of,
form does it take? Okay, go ahead. What
yeah,
form does it take? What does the excommunication look like?
they are banned from going to events of ISKCON, taking any kind of going to temples or going to events or taking any kind of leadership position on behalf of ISKCON. So this happens.
What would cause that sort of excommunication?
Sorry, I cannot understand.
Oh, what would a person do to earn that excommunication?
Maybe like some devotees may have some issues with the leadership or something that
Take
that
issues with what?
might have some devotees might have some issues with the leadership or with some people in the temple or some god brothers, or maybe some devotees have been maltreated due to which they raised their voices and they eventually got ended up getting banned or
Oh,
excommunicated. So
if someone did criminal activity in the temple or harmed any of the temple devotees, they could be asked to leave. But it's not the same thing as excommunicated. It's just because, frankly, no one can be excommunicated. Once a person has been accepted by Srila Prabhupada, or maybe to their horror, the successor gurus, they cannot be excommunicated. The initiation ceremony begins with, the fire sacrifice begins with abovitra, bovitrava, whether you're purified or unpurified. The fire sacrifice is burning up your sins. Who accepts your sins? The initiating guru. And on a level playing field, that means Srila Prabhupada. On a not so level playing field, that means people think that they're initiating and Prabhupada's taking the karma, the ISKCON gurus, but unless that person is 100% surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, then Prabhupada is only taking the amount of karma that in proportion to how much they guru has surrendered. So if he's a kanistha adhikari just filling out the role of guru because people want one, he takes on the karma personally, so that when he dies, they all grieve for him. They're not doing Shraddha ceremony for Prabhupada, but they do Shraddha ceremony for their guru. And then when they die, they go to where the guru went. If a person is initiated by in behalf of Srila Prabhupada, when somebody initiates a devotee into ISKCON, which is Prabhupada's body, then when they die, they will go into a birth to be again under Prabhupada's association. Whereas the person who takes initiation from the successor guru, if he's not a pure devotee, and I have not met one yet that is, in the sense of being an Uttamadhikari, that it is rasa with Krishna. Therefore, that person has to take the karma, the proportion of the karma of what he has not surrendered to. That's one of the the other points I was trying to make with Gregory. That if you are a Shiksha Guru and you're giving initiation, you have to understand that you're taking on the karma of the person you initiate. And why not? You want the benefit, you want the money, you want the honor. So why not take the karma? That's why people take initiation. They want to offload their karma onto their guru. Basically, that's why they take initiation. Some people take initiation because they want enlightenment, which means they want to shed all material mentality and surrender completely at Krishna's lotus feet. And that is there. But from the initiated ISKCON standard, which is known as Kanistha Adhikari, you have to come up to Madhyama Adhikari, and after that to Uttama Adhikari. And that means that you're very serious about not just simply getting rid of your sins so that you can enjoy your body more, but that you are interested in leaving your body and taking on a spiritual body in the spiritual sky. Very different proposal. Okay, was that too much? Was that okay?
No, it was very apt. So one thing is that if Kanishta Adhikari Guru is worshipping Srila Prabhupada and observing Shraddha for him, so is it that he goes to the place where Prabhupada is, and behind him, his disciples also go to that place where Prabhupada is along with him?
Well, it really depends on where the disciple goes.
No, like right now we have discussed that if the Kanishta Adhikari Gurus, if they have some sinful activities and they go to a particular planet to just fulfill or to enjoy or suffer their karma, then their disciples also have to go behind the Kanishta Adhikari Guru to that planet.
Exactly, they go behind them.
So, if a Kanishta Guru is worshipping Srila Prabhupada and observing a Shraddha for him, then he goes to the place where Prabhupada is, and behind him, his disciples also go to the place where Prabhupada is. So,
Well, that would be nice if it were true. But the thing to remember is, if someone is a Kanistha Adhikari Guru, he accepts the sins of those he initiates, right?
yeah.
Their argument is that, yes, we accept the sins, but we are passing them up to Prabhupada.
Yeah.
But that is only possible if they are pure. The guru is pure. If the guru is not pure and he accepts the sins do not get passed up to Krishna at all. Or at least not, they do, but not the majority, maybe 2%, 5%, like that, not 100%. So that means that when that guru dies, he's loaded to the gills with the sins of those he initiated, because he can't get rid of the sins. He's accepted it, and they've given him money and they worship him. And giving the money is not just a greedy thing like business. Giving the money is giving your life energy. So if you give your life energy by praying and chanting and worshiping a picture of your Kanista Guru, that's giving worship, but giving him money is even more powerful, because you're giving your life. Money is your karma, and you're giving your good karma. When I say karma, karma means good karma. Karma means not good, evil karma. Evil, what we call bad karma, is karma. But karma, you're giving your money, your wealth that you've gotten from past pious deeds in previous lives. You're giving that wealth to another Kanista Adhikari, like yourself. Maybe a little bit more advanced, but not strategically advanced. And so if you're giving your karma to that fellow Kanista Adhikari, he keeps it. He can't get rid of it, because he's also Kanista. He got rid of his karma with Prabhupada, maybe if he's initiated by Prabhupada, but he can't get rid of your karma to Prabhupada because he's accepted it, just as Prabhupada accepted your karma and his karma. So he will eventually go back to Godhead, there's no question of it. And whoever he initiates will eventually go back to Godhead as well. But what will they have to go through when they go to see the Guru in the next life? There he is, bloated like a toad, stuffed with all sorts of bumps and everything all over his body caused by the karma that he's accepted. I mean, what can he say?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Prabhu, it makes so like if a person is not pure, then he cannot pass his sins to above in the parampara. But in the book,
Precisely.
yeah. So
I'm agreeing with you.
yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
So go ahead.
In a book, the Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. In that book, Prabhupada was explaining the thing to one of his disciple, the Peace Corps member, who later became his disciple. He was asking that if the devotional service burns up all the sins, then why, Srila Prabhupada, you are suffering from disease today? So Prabhupada was saying, I am suffering from disease because I have made so many disciples and I have to absorb their sins. So if we consider this factor that if a person is not purified, then he cannot pass the sins above in his parampara. So because Prabhupada was also suffering the sins of his disciples. So, but we may not.
Prabhupada was being very kind when he said that, because that would be in a perfect world. His suffering, or the majority of his suffering, was not because he took on the karma of his disciples, but he took in the karma of the disciples, took initiation, and then left and returned to sinful activity. He had to accept that karma as well. Do you see the point? Prabhupada taking on karma, it goes to Krishna Loka. The disciple remains sinless. He doesn't give the spiritual master more karma, or at least not very much karma, because we're not perfect. And every time a man glances at a woman or wishes that he was eating some unoffered food or stuff like that, that will afflict the spiritual master, but very, very minimally, just a tiny bit. What we're facing here is people that took initiation, took Brahman initiation, took sannyas, and very big absorption of karma on Prabhupada's part. And then they fell down and began to sin as much or more than they did before they became devotees at all. We're talking hundreds of devotees fell down. Literally. So if they fall down performing sinful deeds, then Prabhupada has to accept the karma because he has made that arrangement. Now, Thakur Bhaktivinoda wrote a book regarding Vaishnava etiquette. I forget the name of the book. It might have been called, I forget the name. And it describes, what? I'm sorry, do you know it? It was something that, it's about Vaishnava etiquette. And if a Vaishnava, meaning a pure devotee, like Prabhupada, accepts a disciple who then falls down, do you know what the guru must do to rectify that situation? He must go to all of his godbrothers, fall down at their feet, weeping, and beg them for forgiveness for having accepted an unworthy disciple. That's Vaishnava etiquette. Prabhupada never did that. He accepted anybody. It was like he was on a suicide mission. He accepted everybody. He took on everybody's karma. He took on the karma of everybody for the next 10,000 years, as far as I can see. He took on everyone's karma in behalf of Radharani, who wants everyone to chant, because that's what they do in Krishna Loka. And remember, Radharani came here to demonstrate to Lord Chaitanya what it's like to be Radharani. So he came as Radharani, golden color, and he created the golden age of Kali because of Radharani. And so her mission is to deliver all the fallen souls in the golden age of Kali, and she's asking us to be her agents to do that. She's looking to us to act in her behalf.
Understood.
And that is through Lord Chaitanya. You can say, well, it's not a she, it's a he, but it's a he who came in the mood of a she, meaning Radharani. And of course, the was a Swadhuj, where he demonstrated that he's both Radha and Krishna. So anyhow, that not to go too long. This ended with Srila Prabhupada, who I think we can easily say is the last Sampradaya Acharya for the golden age of Kali. Because the Hare Krishna mantra is itself a Shaktivish avatar. And all the ISKCON temples can do is provide an atmosphere where you can follow the four regular principles and make gradual spiritual advancement by reading Prabhupada's books, chanting, classes, deity worship, take prasadam, and all of that. So as you do that, you can progress up through the Kanistha platform. But not to belittle the Kanistha platform, once you're in this ISKCON Kanistha platform, you will never take an animal birth again. Or put it this way, you'd have to try very hard to do it. You're not going to become an animal in your next life. You're going to become a devotee in your next life. If you're very, very offensive, you may become a person who becomes a devotee from another family, hearing a devotee. In other words, you may not be born actually in a family of devotees, or maybe you will. There's no guarantee. There's nothing from Krishna or Prabhupada that can guarantee your next birth. There's only one person that can guarantee your next birth, and that, Prabhu, is you.
Hare Krishna.
That's the guarantee. Okay, so as far as taking on karma, just to wind that little saga up, Prabhupada did not go to his godbrothers and beg their forgiveness for having initiated people who fell down. Basically, most of his disciples were not strictly following all the regulated principles, even when they took initiation. But they were in ISKCON, and they were, if you make mistakes or fall down a little bit, when you're in the process of making progress, that is forgiven by Krishna or overlooked. But there's karma generated, and Prabhupada has to accept it. He accepted it, I assure you, willingly, with intention, without a second thought, without regret. We think, oh, if I got married to the wrong woman or the woman said to the wrong man, I made such a mistake. Well, not as big a mistake as Prabhupada made in initiating you and your husband. That was a big one. No matter what you did, it was a big mistake. But he came here to deliver you. Therefore, he initiated you. Therefore, it was not a mistake. You get the point. So in terms of the spiritual master accepting karma, Prabhupada said, because I accepted the karma, there was not directly, yes, those who were initiated and followed strictly, he accepted their continuing karma as well as their original karma. That's okay, and that's the proper guru-disciple or disciple-to-guru relationship. But he also had to accept the karma of those who fell down. That people don't understand that. But he was like Lord Chaitanya. He broke open the storehouse of love of God. He broke open the storehouse of diksa and gave the holy name and the sanctity of being an initiated disciple to anyone who asked. You know, the standard used to be, people would say, I want to recommend so-and-so. Can you please chat on his beats, give him a name? And Prabhupada would ask you, well, is he doing this? Is he doing that? To make sure that he was following nicely. But they weren't following necessarily that nicely. And with some of the temple presidents that were recommending, they just wanted to get more manpower in their temple. So they recommended people that they might not have ordinarily recommended for initiation. But Prabhupada accepted them on the recommendation of his Shiksha Guru temple presidents. If you want to use the Kirtanananda example, Shiksha Guru temple presidents, you have recommended, you're in charge, I trust you as my representative, so I will accept. Whether it was a good idea or not, whether that person was worthy of initiation or not. So that is why Prabhupada became so ill. Does that throw a little extra light on the topic?
Yeah, that was very well explained, and Prabhu, I please my humble obeisances in your lotus feet for making your
And I at your lotus feet.
Yes.
I could not have answered the questions nicely, which you feel I did, if you had not asked it so nicely. Therefore, because you asked us, Krishna is operating through us in Istagosthi. Paramatma, all of us talk in Istagosthi, in this Zoom call. And you come on the Zoom call, pray, please, Lord Paramatma, you do the speaking. I want to listen. I want to listen to what you say in this Istagosthi. I want to know what questions you're going to ask in this Istagosthi. I want to know what statements you're going to make in this Istagosthi of the Zoom call. I want to know. So please let me be the passive bird and you be the active bird and do all the talking. And I will be entertained to hear you, and everyone will be entertained to hear you also, and everyone will think it's me, but only I will know that it's not really me, it's you, Krishna, that is doing the talking. That's a gradual thing, but it's not as gradual as you might think. It happens quicker than you might imagine.
Yeah.
You like?
Yeah, I like everything.
I just handed you Krishna on a platter. All you have to do is reach out your hands under the platter. I will take my hands away. Now the platter is your platter. And you're free to, once you understand who is Krishna and who are you, Paramatma, who are you, and not hinder the talking, as soon as you get used to talking in behalf of Paramatma, then you hand the platter to the next guy.
Hari Bol.
You like?
Yeah, Prabhu. So that's why I think just like you were saying about that thing regarding a Vaishnava, if what he should do if his disciple falls down. I remember one conversation in which, in his last, Srila Prabhupada was talking with one of his god brothers, and he was saying that please forgive me for all my sins to all my god brothers. I think this was also one of the reasons why he was saying that.
Yeah, yeah. Because Prabhupada was not so puffed up to think of himself as bigger than his godbrothers. You see,
Yeah,
all of Prabhupada's godbrothers wanted to be bigger than each other. And when Prabhupada's godnephew, Narayan Maharaj, he came and he said, "It's my godbrothers around." This is when he was practically on his deathbed. And he said to Narayan Maharaj, "Are my godbrothers around?" And Narayan Maharaj said, "Well, not very many of them. Most of them have gone back to their temples and stuff like that." And he said, "Well, how many?" "Well, maybe 3 or 4. I said, "Bring them. I want to speak with them." Narayan Maharaj was horrified because he was angling to be named as Prabhupada's successor as the Acharya of ISKCON, because Tamal Krishna was pushing him to believe that that was possible. And so he was very reluctant. He said, "Well, Prabhupada, you called me here. I had to stop a puja with my deity to get here, but I came here for you. Now, what is it you want?" Thinking Prabhupada was going to name him as successor. There's a tape to this effect. And then Prabhupada said, "No, I want to talk to my godbrothers." He was horrified. That's when Prabhupada did, maybe he did again before, but that's when Prabhupada got 3 or 4 godbrothers together, and with tears in his eyes, he said, for the sake of preaching and for the sake of my disciples not being confused, I have said many things against you both, all, but you're my senior godbrothers, and for me to say anything against you is a great offense on my part. And he was with tears streaming in his eyes as he was passing away from arsenic poisoning. Not exactly later he did, but I mean, that he was lying in bed. He said, "Please forgive me for having committed that offense. I tried to do it in behalf of our Guru Maharaj. I tried to do it in behalf of Krishna, but nonetheless, I have committed offenses against all of you, godbrothers." And they all just sat there saying, "Hey, well, we do the same thing to each other. I mean, why are you making such a big deal out of it? You know, what's the big deal?" Yeah, you got to say things like that in order to get ahead in your own mouth with your own temples. You got to put other people down, or the people will go to them. But that's not what Prabhupada was seeing. Prabhupada was seeing that they were his godbrothers, and he had spoken against them, even rightly, which was rightly. He did rightly speak against them. At one point, he said, "Don't associate with any of my godbrothers."
yeah,
But the quote that you're mentioning, if I'm not mistaken, was at that same time or shortly after, when Narayan Maharaj showed up hoping to become made Prabhupada's successor, and he gathered them together and wept, begging for forgiveness for having committed offenses at their feet. Isn't that amazing? And they
Yeah,
were
it's
just out there, they wanted to kill him. They hired a Brahmabhuta, a Brahmin, to produce a Brahmabhuta so that they could poison one of 4 Prabhupada's disciples, that Prabhupada is God, because they knew that if they, in 1969, 72, 70, they knew that if they had convinced some of the disciples that Prabhupada is God, that would destroy Prabhupada's whole movement in America. See, look at the Swami. He comes out, householder, full of nonsense, married, bunch of kids, you know, not like us, we're sannyasis and whatnot. And then he went, took sannyas, ha ha ha, and then he went to America, ha ha ha, to save everybody. But look how quickly he was turned around and allowed or encouraged or even taught his disciples to say that he was God, that he was Krishna. That's what they did, hiring a Brahmabhuta in Mayapur. Brahman, Man Maharaj, Tirtha Maharaj, all of those Maharajas, there was about 4 or 5 of them, they conspired together and paid. And Achyutananda, who was very susceptible to that sort of mentality, spoke through the phone to Brahmananda. The ghost, the Brahmabhuta ghost, went through the phone into the ear of Brahmananda. Brahmananda spoke it to Gargamuni. Gargamuni spoke it to Vishnu Jan, the great saintly Vishnu Jan. Vishnu Jan then spoke it to Subal, and they all went around for like months stating that Prabhupada was God. Until it was proven otherwise in New Vrindavan, the first GBC meeting.
Prabhupada said that they are saying right now that I am God, so that next time they can claim that now they have also become God.
That's what the godbrothers of Prabhupada wanted them to think.
So one thing also, like regarding Narayan Maharaj, like those people usually say that once there is a place in Vrindavan, Seva Kunj, so that is the place where Sri Radha Sham Sundar appeared. So one
Or who?
uh, the regarding Narayan Maharaj, there is one theory that is very much prominent in Gaudiya Matha. Those people, they say that once the pujari of Seva Kunj in Vrindavan, Radharani appeared in his dreams, and she said to the pujari that give this prasadi mala to Narayan Maharaj because he is my sakhi. And Pujari immediately woke up and ran to Gopinath Gaudiya Math and gave the mala, prasadi mala of Radharani to him. So people of Gaudiya Math, they usually say that Narayan Maharaj is one of the Sakhis of Radharani. So I think you must have heard about this story. So like,
I don't know. I never did. Just from you.
yeah, this is very prevalent.
Yeah, I
This,
know. But the thing which I'd like to point out, none of Prabhupada's godbrothers recognized Narayan Maharaj at all. Because remember, Narayan Maharaj is not his godbrother. They're a godbrother. He was not Prabhupada's godbrother, and he was not Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciple. He was the disciple of Madhava Maharaj. Madhava Maharaj?
No, Keshava.
Keshava Maharaj, sorry. He was the disciple of Keshava Maharaj, who is not known to be an Uttama Adhikari himself. So there was no way that that could have happened in reality, but I'm sure that Narayan Maharaj made sure that sort of statement went around, and particularly after he disobeyed Keshava Maharaj, his guru, who told him never to go to Radhakund and study with the Babajis there. As soon as Keshava Maharaj left his body in 1968, December of 68, not December, it was earlier of 68, fall of 68, he rushed off to go to Sevakunj, and I mean Radhakund. He went off to Radhakund and studied with the Babajis there. Undoubtedly, that is where that story originated. And it was originated, no doubt, maybe by one of the Babajis or maybe by Narayan Maharaj himself. But I never heard a single word from any one of Prabhupada's godbrothers saying even one nice statement about Narayan Maharaj. I never heard him make one nice statement, none of his godbrothers did. In fact, none of them liked him at all. So where that story came from, I think maybe through Radhakund, through the Babajis of Radhakund, because that's the sort of Sahaja stuff they were into. And that's why Narayan Maharaj stated that he was more advanced than Srila Prabhupada. It had to be from Radhakund because he stated that he was now initiated into the intimate pastimes of Radharani. And therefore, he said that Prabhupada is qualified to take you to Vishnu, but he cannot take you to Radha and Krishna. Only I can do that, which is an insane, preposterous, inaccurate thing to say.
Yeah, Prabhu, like the way they canvass this theory about, because almost all of his disciples claim this thing, that he is a Sakhi of Radharani and Radharani sent his servant to give him his Prasadi Mala, these kind of things. And the way they canvass, like any kind of neophyte devotee who goes to Vrindavan and stays at some place where his disciples are there, so it is very easy for them to catch up this philosophy and enter into Gaudiya Math. So
Well, yes, but we have to understand that their only teacher, well, a lot of the devotee disciples accepted Narayan Maharaj were formerly Prabhupada's disciples that got kicked out or left because of drug activity or other criminal activity. But they came to Narayan Maharaj, but Narayan Maharaj made no secret that he considered himself to be way more advanced than Srila Prabhupada. So he even took one of Prabhupada's first disciples, who is a very famous artist named Jadharani,
yeah,
which I think is an incredible name, because Yadurani means the queen of the Yadus, and the queen of the Yadus was Devaki, who is the mother of Krishna. I mean, how much higher up the stack do you wish to go? So he renamed her, instead of Jadharani, as Shaimarani, which means the queen of, a name for Radharani, which is the queen, Krishna's personal girlfriend, not his mother. So how can he do that? You know, he was, we're talking about Narayan Maharaj. I spent about 4 hours once, a number of years ago, and I completely deconstructed him from the inside out. So much so that he was supposed to give a lecture at a big hotel with hundreds of people coming to hear him speak. And he was so discombobulated by the conversation that he had with me that he had to rest for 4 hours to recuperate from our conversation. I wasn't offensive to him. I was just being extremely relentlessly truthful with him. And after that, he went there and was 4 hours late to give his lecture. So, and I assure you, Prabhus, in case you wonder, I was not rude. I didn't offend him. I didn't say anything that was not respectful. But I simply spoke the truth. And he was not able to endure the truth. That's a whole other pastime, so I'm not going to get into it. But I know a great deal about Narayan Maharaj. Now, the good thing I will say is that those people that got exfoliated by ISKCON, by the bogus gurus, including Jodharani, got kicked out. They went to Narayan Maharaj, and even on our Zoom call, there's evidence that Narayan Maharaj's people were very nice. They cooked better prasadam than the ISKCON temples in Vrindavan. They were not offensive, but they were sort of just like a basket that the devotees that were kicked out of ISKCON landed in, and Narayan Maharaj took on their karma, which killed him, of course, as you may guess, from cancer. And And he took on that while trying to take over the movement from Prabhupada by taking his senior disciples and making them his own reinitiated disciples. He, in his usual preposterous way, was killed by his attempt by taking on the karma of disciples who had gone off to become drug dealers and all sorts of things like that, took on all their karma so that Prabhupada would not have to. So he did serve Prabhupada very nicely by taking on the karma of his disciples that had fallen down. Other Prabhupada would have suffered worse than he did. But of course, Narayan Maharaj, not being a remotely as advanced as Srila Prabhupada, couldn't withstand even the second-hand karma of Prabhupada's initiated but fallen devotees, disciples, and it killed him within a very short time. Hare Krishna. Is that okay?
Yeah, Prabhu. That very much explained everything. Like,
Yeah. And I have nothing against Ryan Maharaj, but
Yeah,
I will
that-
say one thing. You know, when it came out, the people, Tamal was, and everybody was saying that eventually, and devotees were saying Prabhupada was poisoned. Narayan Maharaj was hanging out with Tamal Krishna at the end of Prabhupada's life, imagining, before he entered Samadhi, imagining that he was going to, Tamal was encouraging him, thinking that he could get Narayan Maharaj named as Prabhupada's successor, because he already knew that none of himself or his godbrothers were qualified to become gurus. So it was an easy shot to make Narayan Maharaj the guru, and then Tamal would be his right-hand man. So Narayan Maharaj used to have meetings with Prabhupada's disciples after Prabhupada was gone, where he kept on saying, oh, Tamal, he's Prabhupada's most exalted and advanced disciple. He has got so much realization because of Prabhupada. He was building up Tamal, so when Tamal nominated him to become Acharya of ISKCON, it would carry enough weight because Tamal tended to be the chairman of ISKCON. I mean, he was so aggressively formidable that he could pretty well control a great deal of what went on in ISKCON in the GBC meetings. So that was up until 1996. And then later on, the question became, was Prabhupada poisoned? And then, can you imagine the utter absurdity? I would like to say stupidity, but it doesn't even come up to that level of to be called stupidity. The absurdity of Narayan Maharaj, after praising Tamal day and night in front of groups of people like Duvida and like Radharani and Gurijan and a bunch of senior people that went there to get Rasika secrets from Narayan Maharaj, secret gopi pastimes, which was forbidden by Prabhupada. He actually said publicly amongst his disciples, I always knew that Tamal had been poisoning Prabhupada. Can you imagine? After saying Tamal was Prabhupada's most advanced disciple, then he says, I always knew that Prabhupada was being poisoned by Tamal. That was Narayan Maharaj for you. He was capable of that sort of, what? What did you say? You've gone from this to that? And how did you get there? He wasn't all that bright.
We have 3 minutes left.
Okay, somebody else speak, okay? I've talked probably more than enough. But anyhow, Prabhu, concerning Narayan Maharaj, are you okay with what I said?
Yeah, Prabhu, this topic is actually very big than this meeting, but you explained very nicely a lot of things that were in my mind, and that has been preached by various people around in Vrindavan. So it is very essential to have association with devotees like you.
Well, thank you. So now, Ramachandra, are you there, I hope? Ramachandra? Rupa, is Ramachandra on?
It says he's here.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm here.
okay. Can you give everybody who came on a chance for a 1-minute statement or a 1-minute question and answer that somebody besides myself answers?
Well, that Narayan Maharaj question was only you can answer because you were there. So,
Oh, that one, yeah. But I mean, now maybe there's something unresolved that needs to be dealt with.
We have 2 minutes left.
so
Yeah.
any
2
last
minutes.
devotees that want to speak, or we'll continue it tomorrow? So I hope they had a good, good insights of Narayan Prabhu.
Okay, now, Rupa Manjari Prabhu, are you satisfied? Have I rectified myself in your eyes regarding my conversation with Gregory?
Yes.
And I want to reiterate, neither I nor do I expect anyone here to try to get group conversation. Our group says this: Istagosthi is the jiva speaking individually, not a group that agrees on something against a group that says something else. That's what goes on between the Ritviks and the guru people of this kind and all that. And it's gotten exactly nowhere and has not been pleasurable, nor has it been educational, nor has it solved any of his problems. What we're doing will solve, because we're talking as individuals based on Guru Shastra Sadhu, and based particularly on Prabhupada being the Acharya for the next 10,000 years through his books. Well, where is he? Well, I'm going to see him. Okay, pick up a book, you'll see him. His picture's there. Now read the book. He's in those books. But I need someone to explain the books. Well, actually, his books are self-explanatory. He is coming from Krishna Loka, knowing who's going to read his books before he wrote them. His consciousness was fully equipped for you and you and you, all of us, and me, to understand what we needed to know in order to bring the holy name of Krishna into every town and village of the world.
Okay, it's
Okay.
10 o'clock.
Is that okay?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
10 o'clock.
So we don't need a guru beyond Prabhupada's books, and you don't need a guru to explain Prabhupada's books. They're self-explanatory.
All right, Jai. Okay, thank you very much to all the devotees for joining. We'll continue on the session
Jai.
tomorrow.
But I want you more involved, Ramachandra.
Well, the questions were directed to you, so how can I get involved? So,
Well, you can interrupt.
right, Mahaprabhu? Okay.
Hare
So
Krishna.
thank you very much to all the devotees for joining. We'll see you again tomorrow about 8 o'clock California time. Thank you, Mahaprabhu, Vinayak Prabhu, Rupa Manjari, and who was that other devotee named? Mohit Prabhu. Jai.
Oh, can I read something very quickly? It just popped up on my screen. I'll read it very, very quickly.
1 second.
One should approach a sadhu or great sage not to see, but to hear him. If one is not prepared to hear the words of a sadhu, there is no profit. Sukadeva Goswami was a sadhu who could speak on the transcendental activities of the Lord. He did not satisfy the whims of ordinary citizens. He was recognized when he spoke on the subject of Bhagavatam, and he never attempted jugglery like a magician. Outwardly, he appeared to be a retarded, dumb madman, but in fact, he was the most elevated transcendental personality.
Jai.
So that's how we should accept Prabhupada: to hear him, not to see him, and to hear the Guru, not to see the Guru.
Jai. Okay. We'll end it on that note. Thank you very much to all the devotees for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare